What if Palpatine never betrayed Dooku and Anakin never unalived him? Hey guys, really quick, from the 26th of December until the 2nd of January, at Fantasy Sabers we're giving away a free The Sun affordable version with every sale using code Luke, so check that out. Let's start the story on the Invisible Hand. Palpatine sits there watching Anakin and Obi-Wan fight Dooku. In this story, Palpatine values Dooku quite high. He is essential to his plans and a key component that will work in his empire. But he still plans to turn Anakin to his side, but will not use Dooku's death to do this, rather someone more close to Anakin. During the fight, Grievous joins, having left his command station under direct orders from Sidious. Anakin takes on Dooku, whilst Kenobi and Grievous fight. However, this is going exactly how Palpatine envisioned, as he watches Obi-Wan and Grievous closely and makes his move, unleashing a small amount of dark-side energy to hold Obi-Wan Kenobi in place, giving Grievous the split second he needed to slash two of his blades through Obi-Wan. Anakin looks over his shoulder, sensing what has happened, and screams out in rage as he slashes across Dooku's abdomen with a shallow strike and sends him back with the Force. The wound so shallow it won't cause any permanent damage. Anakin rushes over to Grievous and starts attacking him with insane speed, his anger fueling every strike. Obi-Wan had already cut off two of Grievous's hands, and Anakin took off the other two, leaving the general defenseless as Anakin took off his head. Anakin turns back to Dooku, steals his blade with the Force, and holds his lightsabers up to his throat. But before he can kill him, which he probably would have, Palpatine tells him to stop, and that they must arrest him, as they can use him to their advantage in the war. Anakin looks on, fury in his eyes, but Palpatine begged Anakin to spare his life, and Skywalker agrees. Together, Anakin guides the three of them to the escape pod, and they launch back to Coruscant. Anakin was in complete despair over Obi-Wan's death. He was his brother, and the greatest friend he had ever known. How could he live without him? Together they arrive back in the Senate halls, as crowds are gathered, cheering and applauding, whilst Anakin walks with Palpatine alive and saved, with Dooku captured in handcuffs and Grievous's head in Anakin's hands. He had single-handedly won the war, and Palpatine made sure the galaxy thought that. Palpatine and Dooku had carefully orchestrated these events. During the Clone War, they made it so Anakin would be the face of the Republic and Jedi, the hero with no fear, and every child around the galaxy knew of Anakin's name. He and Obi-Wan were common topics of playground chatter. Who was stronger, Anakin or Obi-Wan, the knight or his shining armor? But now Anakin's armor had been cracked, and the devil made his move. With his heroic capture of Dooku and defeat of Grievous, Anakin would become the greatest hero in the history of the Republic and galaxy, and this is exactly what Palpatine had wanted. As they walked together through the crowd of applause, Anakin should feel joy that the war was essentially over, but he only felt pain for the loss of Obi-Wan. Dooku is taken to jail, whilst Anakin is sent to the council to report the events of the battle. He took the council step by step through, but could not mutter the words regarding Obi-Wan's death. The image was stained in his mind, and it brought him too much pain to replay it, and the council knew this. They could feel the anger and sorrow coming from Anakin. His attachment to his master Obi-Wan was evident, and there was nothing they could do about it. Anakin was too old. This could not be trained out of him now. They held the funeral for Kenobi later that day, and Anakin received no support from the Jedi. As a knight, he was expected to rejoice in Kenobi's death, to be happy that he's passed on to become one with the living Force, but this was not something he could do. Things turned for the worst when that night, Anakin had his first dreams of Padme dying in childbirth, and his fear, compounded with sadness, almost destroyed him, as he sought out guidance from his next closest companion, Palpatine. Exactly what the Chancellor had expected. He would spend his time with the one person who would humanize Anakin's feelings, Palpatine. When Anakin came to him, he stunk of the dark side. He was already down the path, and Palpatine had to coach him there. In Anakin's mind, he had failed Obi-Wan, failed his promise to his mother from many years ago, that he would not let anyone else die, and very soon, he would fail Padme and his child, and with this, he would be left alone. Palpatine attempted to manipulate Anakin against the Jedi, telling him that this is the Council's fault, that they put a hold on his power and are hiding secrets from him, merely because they're afraid of him. Anakin agrees, and Palpatine tells him he can teach him these secrets, to teach Anakin to break free from these constraints of the Jedi, because he's a Sith Lord, Darth Sidious. Anakin's eyes go wide. He was not expecting this from Palpatine, but at the back of Anakin's mind was a hint of interest. He wanted to know more. Palpatine told Anakin that with his knowledge, he can grow his power far beyond that any Jedi ever could. He could give him the power to save anyone from death so that he would never lose anyone he cared about again, even his wife Padme. Anakin asks how he knows about Padme, and Palpatine tells him that the dark side told him that its power is far greater than Skywalker could ever imagine. Anakin was interested. His fear, anger, and sorrow are too strong to give in. He asks Palpatine what his plans are, who tells Anakin the Jedi are the plague on the Republic. If the galaxy is to be reformed, the Jedi must be destroyed, and reveals the secret that he's been working with Count Dooku to do this. That Dooku doesn't care about the Separatists. He simply wants what's best for the galaxy, and understands that the Jedi are in the way of this. This surprises Anakin, but when Palpatine said it, it started to make more sense. Palpatine pleaded with Anakin to join them, that together they can teach him the dark side, and create the galaxy in which his family deserves to live in, and together they have the power to ensure his nightmares never come true. But Anakin raised an important question. If he's been working with Dooku, that means he's also been working with Grievous, the thing that killed Obi-Wan. Palpatine told Anakin that was correct, but that he commanded Grievous to spare Obi-Wan, that he planned that Kenobi could have joined them in restoring the galaxy to its former glory. But Grievous disobeyed his orders, and with this he paid with his life. This answer was good enough, and Anakin submits to Palpatine, gives himself over to his teachings, and becomes Darth Vader. Meanwhile that night, Dooku remained in his prison. He had planned to sit out the rest of the war in his comfortable jail, but the end was closer than he thought. He was surprised to be broken out of his prison by Miladian assassins and brought to Palpatine's office until the time was right. The next day, Palpatine and Anakin gives his first public speech since Obi-Wan's death and stated the extent of the sadness that he feels for his master's passing, but that he would push forward to create the galaxy that he envisions, and at the forefront of the problem with this is the Republic Senate. That the Senate was corrupt, a cesspool of beings grabbing at whatever power they could, and Chancellor Palpatine has been doing whatever he could to get rid of this, but it runs too deep and needs more extreme reformation. And accompanying this corruption is the Jedi Order, and Anakin states that he's seen the corruption firsthand from the inside. He proclaims the Jedi want the prolongation of the war because they have one goal, to take over the Republic for themselves, and that they have already made moves against the Chancellor Palpatine. This news echoed across the galaxy, and it shocked everyone. Everyone believed the words from the famous Anakin Skywalker, and the reputation of the Jedi Order had been trashed. The Jedi tried to contact Anakin to bring him in front of the council for questioning, but he was already back in Palpatine's office with Dooku. The Jedi knew he was there, so Masters Yoda, Windu, Shaak Ti, Fisto, and Kola arrived to confront Anakin. But as they arrived, they felt something was off. They felt the dark side leeching off Palpatine, but also the man next to him, Anakin Skywalker. Yoda knew what was going on instantly. Palpatine was Sidious, and he had turned Anakin to his side. Windu proclaims that in the name of the Galactic Senate of the Republic, Palpatine was under arrest. As soon as the Jedi walked in, Palpatine pressed a button on his desk and would play his part accordingly. He feigned ignorance, asking the Jedi why he's under arrest. What has he done wrong? Yoda states it's because he's a Sith Lord. However, Palpatine tells him his religious affirmations are not illegal, but the Jedi ignite their blades and walked forward. Palpatine turned to Anakin, telling him he knew the Jedi would do this. They've done nothing wrong, and yet they've come to arrest him, and he tells Skywalker they have the right to defend themselves. Palpatine ends the recording as he presses a different button on his desk as Dooku walks out, lightsaber ignited and ready for the fight. The room explodes in a chaotic dance of lightsabers and Sith lightning. Palpatine got in early, severing Fisto's head from his body and one of Shaak Ti's arms, forcing him to fight her with her weaker hand. Dooku takes on Yoda, whilst Palpatine fought Windu. Anakin took on Shaak Ti and Kola, but this fight was outmatched. Shaak Ti was already weakened, so Anakin thrust his blade through her, as he poured all of his attention towards Agen Kola, meant to be one of the better duelists in the Order, but Anakin pierces his defenses and cuts him down with no mercy. Anakin joined up with Palpatine, and together they traded blows with Windu. Anakin hated Mace. He had always been jealous of him, and now he would get his revenge. Palpatine and Windu were evenly matched, but with Anakin on his side, the chosen one, Palpatine pressed the advantage. Windu could not keep up his defenses against two masters of lightsaber combat and fell to Palpatine's blade. And now only left was Yoda, who was stuck in a stalemate with his former apprentice. Dooku apologized to Yoda that he wouldn't be alive to see the galaxy they're going to create, as Palpatine and Anakin hold Yoda in the air with the Force as Dooku finishes him off. The Jedi Council is decimated, and together the three of them execute Order 66 and storm the Jedi Temple with thousands of clones and completely wipe out any Jedi inside. Palpatine went to the Senate and proclaims the formation of a new government, and that this would be in partnership with Count Dooku, who swore away his former allegiances to the Separatists, and states that he was unaware of their true crimes, and together, the two of them have joined forces to ensure the galaxy prospers. Meanwhile, Anakin dispatches the Separatist leaders on Mustafar, and with this, the galaxy is theirs. They captured what Jedi returned to Coruscant, and would ensure they become the first warriors of their Sith army, after they corrupted their minds with the dark side of the Force. Palpatine and Dooku's plan was successful. They had smashed the Jedi Order, and would create it anew. A new order that would be free to bring true authority and peace to the galaxy, that desperately needed both. An order to enforce, not debate. And Anakin would be the face of the Sith army. His power was strong, likely stronger than Sidious and Dooku could become, and would be the architect of their destruction. Padme couldn't believe that Anakin had supported the new government and could see firsthand how the dark side had corrupted him. She gave birth successfully, without complication. However, she tried to flee with Organa and Mothma and their children, but Palpatine captured them, and Padme was conveniently killed during this operation, but the twins were saved. This brought Anakin despair beyond belief, but Palpatine comforted him in his twisted manner, ensuring to Anakin that her memory would live on through their twin children. Fast forward 5 years into the future, Anakin was the leader of the Sith army, and together, alongside his 200 warriors, had defeated all the Jedi around the galaxy. They constructed the Sith Temple on Coruscant, built upon the death of thousands of Jedi 5 years prior, and made it a nexus of dark side energy. Palpatine and Dooku commanded Anakin. However, they didn't have to tell him how to do things. They would simply tell him what, and he would find a way. They forced their authoritarian ideals around the galaxy, as the Imperial Army occupied every system around the known galaxy, and all whispers of resistance were crushed. Their galaxy contained a mixture of their ideals. Sidious wanted control, in which they had, but Dooku genuinely wanted what was best for the people of the galaxy, through order, and he believed the galaxy's problems were so great and entrenched that only radical authoritarian measures could fix them. He was a benevolent dictator, an enlightened ruler, guiding the galaxy with his strength. They had both underestimated how strong Anakin would become. He had reached his full potential, mastered every Sith technique hidden in their 100 Sith holocrons, and had even created his own. But one thing Anakin was, and always will be, was a slave. He still fostered a positive relationship towards Palpatine, his mentor, and was fiercely loyal to him and regarded Dooku in a similar aspect, since Palpatine held him so high. Anakin trained Luke and Leia as members of the Sith army, and with their combined forces, their empire would be unchallenged, with no hope of a savior for the galaxy, until of course Rey was born. If you enjoyed this video, you have to watch what if Obi-Wan saved Anakin on Mustafar, and what if the Jedi Council allow Anakin and Padme's marriage. Don't forget to check out Fantasy Sabers and our great deals on right now, and may the Force be with you.